The sources, they really explore Stanza VI of the Secret Doctrine.
Yes, that's the focus.
And it details that shift, right, from cosmic ret.
To activity, yes. Yeah. And world formation, the whole evolutionary sweep. So, our mission today, let's try and pull out the most, I guess, compelling and crucial bits of knowledge about cosmic and human origins from these texts.
Sounds good.
Okay, so where do we even begin? A universe coming into existence. How do you start explaining that?
Well, a logical starting point, I think, is the core principle that really underlies everything else in this framework.
Okay.
And that's the idea of a single, eternal, uncreated law. It's not really a personal God, not in the way we usually think of it.
More like a fundamental force.
Exactly, an intrinsic unifying force that, governs everything.
So this law wasn't made, it just is, always has been. A bit like, I don't know, the laws of physics, but way bigger.
That's actually a pretty helpful way to frame it, yeah. And this eternal law, it doesn't just operate randomly. It manifests everything in nature through what they call a sevenfold principle.
Ah, sevenfold. Okay, that sounds important.
Oh, it's absolutely fundamental. If you want to understand the theosophical view, you need to grasp this septenary nature.
Sevenfold, meaning things work in sevens. Like groups of seven.
Precisely. Cosmic planes, planetary systems, like our solar system, the actual worlds within those systems, even the different parts that make up a person.
Wow, okay.
It all functions according to this sevenfold structure. The sources are quite clear. They say that law, this singular eternal law, is eternal and uncreated, and that deity is law, and vice versa.
So they're interchangeable.
Mm-hmm. And that this one eternal law unfolds everything in manifested nature on that sevenfold principle. It's really the key to unlocking a lot of the other ideas.
Right, okay. So the cosmos runs on this eternal sevenfold law. What happens next? It doesn't just stay static, does it?
No, definitely not. Existence is seen as cyclical. You have these vast periods of rest. They call it pralaya.
Pralaya, okay.
And then periods of intense activity, of manifestation. That's called manvantara.
Manvantara.
Think of it like the cosmos breathing out and then breathing in. A constant rhythm of being and, non-being on a cosmic scale.
Cosmic downtime, then bursts of creation. Okay,
Yeah.
I can picture that. And how do the actual worlds, like Earth, come about within these big cycles?
This brings us to a really fascinating idea. Planetary reincarnation.
Planetary reincarnation. Worlds getting reborn.
Sort of, yes. When a planetary chain, which is a series of 7 connected worlds, remember the sevenfold principle?
Right, the chain has 7 globes or worlds.
Yes, when that chain finishes its active cycle, it doesn't just vanish. Instead, it transfers its energy, its essence, what they call its principles, to a new Leia center. Think of that as a point of dormant energy, pure potential.
A seed, almost.
A cosmic seed, exactly. Containing the essence of the previous life, waiting to sprout into a new planetary chain.
So worlds get recycled. That's a completely different way of thinking about planets and moons. Does our Earth have a predecessor, then, in this cosmic recycling scheme?
According to theosophy, yes, very much so. The moon.
The moon. Our moon.
Our moon. It's considered the parent of the Earth. It's described as a much older chain, now dead, which transferred its principles, its building blocks.
To a Leia center.
Precisely. Which then eventually coalesced and formed our current Earth chain.
Wow. The moon. That, seemingly dead rock floating up there was once alive and kicking, and it gave birth to our world.
Oh.
Okay, now it's getting really interesting.
It certainly challenges our usual perspective. Now let's look at how this actually happens. How does that basic, undifferentiated cosmic stuff actually take shape?
Yeah, how do you get from potential to planets?
The sources talk about a transition from something called mula prakriti. You could translate it roughly as chaos or primordial unformed substance, like raw potential.
On a differentiated potential.
Right, to the manifested universe, which they sometimes call Seen-chan. And this whole transformation gets kicked off by the light of the Logos.
The light of the Logos sounds powerful.
Also called Daivi Prakriti. Think of it as the divine intelligence or maybe the cosmic blueprint for creation.
Okay, the blueprint. So what actually builds it?
That's where Fohat comes in. Fohat is described as the dynamic energy of this light of the Logos.
Fohat, okay.
It's like the active force, the sun of the sun, bridging the gap between the cosmic idea, the blueprint, and the actual material universe. It shows up as cosmic electricity, magnetism, all the fundamental forces.
So Fohat is like the cosmic construction crew and the power source, and maybe even the architect's agent on site, taking the blueprint and making it real.
That's a great analogy, yes. Fohat differentiates that primordial substance, takes what they call fiery dust, the basic cosmic matter, and shapes it into worlds. The texts describe Fohat as the dynamic energy of cosmic ideation.
Cosmic thinking, almost.
Yes, and this androgynous energy that comes from the light of the logos. It manifests as electricity, both hidden and revealed, which they say is basically synonymous with life itself.
Fiery dust, cosmic electricity. Sounds intense. Almost like a heavy metal origin story for the universe.
Perhaps. Now, the sources also talk a lot about sound. How does sound fit into all this?
Sound. Like vibrations.
Exactly. The concept of the divine voice is really significant. It goes by different names, Kuan Yin, Vok, the Hebrew bath kol.
Okay.
But the core idea is that this voice is the expression of cosmic thought. It's the power of the word, the verbum, that essentially calls the universe into existence, the original vibration that gets everything moving.
So the universe wasn't just built, it was kind of spoken into being, sung into being, maybe.
Metaphorically, yes. Vok, for instance, is said to have 4 forms that link up with the 4 basic principles of the cosmos. It shows how the manifested universe is seen as the word made real, the thought becoming reality through that cosmic sound or vibration. They explicitly say, this voice is a synonym for the verbum or the word speech as the expression of thought.
That's a powerful image. The universe as expressed thought.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned planetary chains earlier. Can we unpack that a bit more?
Right.
What are they exactly?
Right. So the idea is our solar system isn't just separate planets floating around. Theosophy suggests there are countless circular chains of worlds. Our Earth is just one part of one such chain.
And each chain has
7 globes, or worlds, or celestial bodies, existing on different planes, different levels of reality.
the 7 again. There it is. That septenary principle is everywhere in this system.
It really is foundational.
So these 7 globes, are they all physical, like Earth? Can we see them?
No, not usually. Only the lowest, the most dense, the most material globe in any chain, like our Earth, which is often called globe D in our chain, is normally perceivable by our physical senses.
Globe B, yeah.
The other 6 globes exist on different, more subtle planes. Think of them as different frequencies or dimensions beyond our normal perception, but they're all connected.
Connected how?
Intrinsically linked. And they correspond to the different principles within a human being, too, like different aspects of one larger cosmic entity reflected in us.
So there are other Earths, sort of on different vibrational levels, all part of our planetary family.
Yeah.
That's mind-expanding.
It is indeed.
Let's loop back to the moon for a second. You said it's Earth's parent. What else does that connection mean? What are the implications?
Well, as we said, the moon, being that older, dead chain, transferred its life force, its foundational principles, to get our Earth chain started.
Right.
But the connection didn't just stop there. The moon is seen as continuing to exert a very complex influence on Earth, some of it beneficial, but some, as sources put it, less so, even maleficent.
Maleficent. Wow, that sounds dark.
It's strong language. The texts say the moon is, quote, a dead yet a living body, that the particles of its decaying corpse are full of active, even destructive life, even though the main body is lifeless.
A zombie moon.
Well, maybe not quite, but the idea is its emanations are mixed, some beneficial, some potentially harmful or disruptive, maleficent. Think about the moon's physical pull, the tides, that's obvious. But theosophy suggests much subtler influences, too energetic, maybe even psychic or psychological influences, stemming from that ancient parental connection. It's a layered relationship, much more than just gravity.
Okay. That's a lot to take in about the moon.
Yeah.
Let's shift focus now from the cosmic bodies themselves to us, to the beings living here. What does theosophy say about where humans come from? About our evolution?
Right. Well, the Eastern philosophy presented here really diverges from the common Western theological idea of a brand new soul being created for every baby born.
Okay, so no new souls popping into existence all the time.
No. Instead, it proposes there's a finite, though vast, number of monads.
Monads, what are they exactly?
Think of them as eternal individual sparks of the divine essence, primordial units of consciousness.
Okay.
And these monads undertake an incredibly long and complex evolutionary journey. They travel through countless cycles of cosmic activity, the Manvantara, as we mentioned.
So not just one lifetime, but countless cycles of existence for each monad.
Exactly. It's a limited pool of these eternal monads experiencing lifetime after lifetime, evolving over immense periods.
And what's the monad itself? Like what part of us?
It's often described as Atma Buddhi. These are the highest spiritual principles within us, the core spiritual essence.
My booty.
This monad journeys through all different kingdoms of nature, mineral, plant, animal, and various states of consciousness. It accumulates experience through countless incarnations, through different personalities it takes on.
And the goal of all this journey?
The ultimate goal is to achieve full self-consciousness, to become fully aware of its own divine nature through the experience of manifestation. The texts explicitly reject that dogma of a newly created soul for every birth, stating there's a limited number of monads evolving and perfecting themselves by assimilating these successive personalities in every Manvantara.
Okay, so we have these ancient monads on their long journey. Where do our actual human forms come into the picture?
This is where the lunar ancestors come in. They're also called the Pitras.
Lunar ancestors. Pitras. Are these connected to the moon being the parent?
Precisely. The Pitras were highly evolved monads from that previous moon chain. They played a absolutely crucial role in anthropogenesis, the creation of humanity.
How so? What did they do?
They provided the initial templates, the astral forms, the energetic blueprints, the subtle bodies, upon which our physical human forms were later built or modeled.
So we literally have a kind of lunar heritage built into our subtle structure. Our astral bodies came from the moon chain.
According to this view, yes. The sources state pretty clearly that the first men on Earth, whatever their form was back then, were the progeny of these celestial men, the lunar ancestors, or Pitras from Indian philosophy.
Fascinating. It sounds like a really complex interplay. Cosmic forces, spiritual entities, all shaping us. Can we break down the different evolutionary streams involved? It sounds like there's more than one thing happening.
Yes, absolutely. Evolution isn't seen as just one single track. Theosophy describes a triple evolutionary scheme, all happening at once, interwoven.
Triple. Okay, what are the three?
First, there's the monadic evolution. That's the spiritual journey of the monad itself, the unfolding of Atma Buddhi we just discussed.
Right, the core spiritual journey.
Second, there's the intellectual evolution. This is said to be guided by beings called the Manasa Dayanis, or sometimes solar divas. They are associated with giving humanity the spark of mind, of intellect, of self-awareness.
Manasa Dayanis, solar divas. So mind came from a different source.
A different guiding influence, yes. And third, there's the physical evolution. This was guided primarily by those lunar Pitras we mentioned, who provided the initial astral patterns or molds for the physical form.
Wow. So monadic, intellectual, and physical. Three separate streams weaving together.
Exactly. And it's the complex union, the merging of these three evolutionary streams, that creates the human being as we know ourselves, this intricate mix of spirit, mind, and body.
So we are the synthesis. Eternal spirit, mind sparked by higher beings, and a physical form with lunar roots. Okay, what about where we are now? Being on Earth, Globe D, and what they call the fourth round, is that significant?
Very significant. The fourth globe, our Earth, and the current fourth round of our whole planetary chain cycle, this is seen as a real turning point.
A turning point how?
Earth Globe D is considered the point of maximum density. The lowest point, you might say, in the cycle's descent into materiality.
The bottom of the arc.
Precisely. And this fourth round is where matter reaches its most solid, most crystallized state. After this round, the evolutionary impulse starts to turn upwards again, moving towards greater spiritualization in the remaining rounds, the 5th, 6th, and 7th.
So we're at the pivot point, the place where things get most material before heading back towards spirit.
Exactly. It's a crucial phase for learning lessons unique to this dense state and for making key evolutionary adjustments. A fulcrum, really.
Makes sense. Now, the sources also mentioned something pretty dramatic sounding. The First War and the fall of spirit into generation. What was that about? It doesn't sound good.
It sounds dramatic, yes. This refers to a point in very early Earth history where certain highly evolved beings, they're called holy youths or sometimes gods, were reluctant to fully incarnate or create purely physical human forms.
Reluctant. Why?
Well, it wasn't a war with weapons or anything like that. Think of it more as a kind of cosmic disagreement or a pause regarding the right way for humanity to develop at that extremely early stage. The texts say things like, these beings felt the early forms were not fit for them yet, that they needed to grow more first. They refused to fully enter the shadows or early proto-human forms.
So they held back from getting fully involved in the messy business of physical creation.
In a sense. But this refusal is interpreted as the fall of spirit into generation. And importantly, it's not presented as a sin or a mistake or a punishment.
Not a fall from grace.
No. It's seen as a necessary stage in the monad's long journey, a required, almost voluntary descent into matter. Why? Because it's through engaging with matter, through the cycles of birth and death in the physical world, that spirit gains self-awareness, learns, and accumulates experience.
Ah, so it had to happen for consciousness to evolve.
That's the idea. Spirit needs to pass through every cycle of being, culminating here on Earth in man, in order to become fully self-conscious. So the fall is actually a crucial step up in terms of awareness, paradoxically.
That completely reframes the traditional fall narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. The sources also briefly mention cosmic conflicts and natural selection. Are we talking literal battles between stars or something?
Well, the idea of a struggle for existence isn't just limited to biology on Earth. Theosophy suggests this principle applies on a cosmic scale, too.
Cosmo.
Worlds, planetary chains, perhaps even galaxies are seen as metaphorically competing for space, for energy, for resources within the grand cosmic scheme. Older systems, less vital ones, might eventually break down or disintegrate.
Making way for new ones.
Exactly, a kind of cosmic natural selection, ensuring renewal and continued evolution across the universe.
Cosmic survival of the fittest. It's like the universe is its own ongoing high-stakes nature documentary.
That's one way to put it.
Okay, slightly different topic now, but still connected to Earth.
Mm.
The poles. What's their significance in this worldview?
The North and South poles aren't just geographical points. They're described as vital energetic centers for the planet.
Energy centers. Like chakras for the Earth.
Something like that, yes. They act as reservoirs, storehouses, but also points of exchange or release for cosmic vitality and the Earth's own terrestrial vitality, which is closely linked to electricity and the planet's life force.
So they regulate the planet's energy.
They're seen as crucial for maintaining the Earth's overall energetic balance and health, like major energy hubs or vortices for our world.
More than just cold places with ice then. They're like the planet's batteries, keeping everything running.
That's a good way to think about it. And moving to a more spiritual level, the texts also briefly touch on the paths to nirvana and adeptship.
Right, the journey towards enlightenment, but specifically in the theosophical context.
Yes. They describe 4 progressive stages or grades of initiation. These paths lead towards arhatship, which represents a very high state of spiritual achievement, profound wisdom, and deep understanding of these cosmic truths.
And is this just theoretical knowledge?
No, it seems to be experiential. There's a phrase used, something like, "Thou shalt comprehend, for thou shalt see," suggesting direct personal insight and vision gained at these higher levels, not just belief, but direct knowing.
Okay. And finally, there's this really evocative phrase, the ever-living human banyan and the guidance of early humanity. What's that about?
Yeah.
It sounds almost mythological.
It does have that feel. It refers to a mysterious, incredibly highly evolved figure, an initiator. This being is considered the ultimate source, the root base of all true spiritual adeptship on Earth.
A single source.
Yes, a foundational figure who is said to have descended or manifested on Earth during the very early stages of human evolution, back in what they call the third root race, a very ancient time.
And this being wasn't alone.
No. This wondrous being, along with other highly advanced spiritual entities known as the Sons of Wisdom, who are described as incarnated dhyanis or rishis, acted as the first great teachers and guides for infant humanity.
So early humans weren't just figuring things out through trial and error. They had mentors, really advanced spiritual mentors.
That's the theosophical view, yes. These beings imparted the first notions of all the arts and sciences, as well as spiritual knowledge. They essentially laid the foundation stones for those ancient civilizations that often puzzle modern archaeologists and historians.
So the great sages and hierophants known throughout history.
According to the text, they are like branches that grew from this original tree of wisdom, this wondrous being, and it was through these sons of God, as they're sometimes called, that early humanity got its start in culture, science, and spirituality.
Wow. Okay. From the very beginning of the cosmos, the cycles, the forces like Fohat, the sevenfold chains, the moon's roll, the journey of the monad, the pitris, the triple evolution, right up to these first teachers. This has been quite the deep dive.
It certainly covers a vast sweep of time and concept.
So just to try and wrap it up, we've explored this idea of a universe run by an eternal law, manifesting through sevens, always cycling between rest and activity. We've seen how worlds like ours are born, maybe even reborn, and how Earth has this deep, complex link to the moon.
Yes, the parent-child relationship with ongoing influence.
And then the evolution of consciousness itself, these monads on their immense journey, guided by lunar ancestors for form and solar divas for intellect.
all striving towards self-awareness through experience in matter.
And we touched on where we are now, this crucial fourth round on Earth, and how early humanity wasn't alone, but guided by these incredible spiritual figures.
Exactly. It presents this incredibly intricate, interconnected picture. Everything linked: cosmic evolution, human evolution, spiritual forces, all within that cyclic sevenfold framework, driven by that eternal law.
So, considering all this ancient perspective, how does it sit with you? Does it maybe challenge how you see our place in the universe? Or perhaps add another layer to your understanding of existence itself?
It definitely offers a different lens.
Yeah. Could these ideas, the limited pool of evolving monads or the moon's really profound influence, could they offer a new way to think about human potential, or even shed light on some of Earth's old mysteries?
Food for thought, certainly.
Absolutely. And really, this deep dive is only scratch the surface. It's a huge, complex system of thought. So if any of this sparked your interest, we definitely encourage you to explore theosophy or related topics further. There's a lot more there.
A vast amount.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.